恭敬大德圣经，为此法会，及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，度证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, plead for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto suchedoye alahari sammya sanputoshe.
Namo Saranto Suche Doye Allahadi Samyao Samputoxie.
无上甚深微妙法，百
百千
千万
万
劫难
劫难
遭遇。
遭遇。我
我今
今见
见闻
闻得
得受持，
愿
愿
解
解如
如来
来真
真实
实
义。
义。Supreme
Supreme
and
and
wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even
even
in
in
billions
billion
of
eons,
eons. But now we see and hear it and accept
accepted
it
reverence
reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual
for
meaning.
meaning.
Righty. Okay, Luke, thank you. 师父上人,各位师兄,大家阿弥陀佛, Venerable Master, Dharma friends. Welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. My name is Heng Shi. Today is Saturday, December 3rd here in Northern California. And I want to express my appreciation to our team in Queensland, Australia, including Kevin, the translator tonight, Sam, the resource personnel, and Cliff, the general fix-it guy who can do everything, tirelessly putting this lecture on for a Chinese audience who are listening. And on this end, my goodness, I mentioned earlier how many systems are up. If, oh, hello. I'm glad that stops right there. So, Jinchuan, would you mind getting that bell, the Daqing? Wanted to say how much work goes into doing what we're doing. If we decided that we were going to imitate the Buddha, what would we do? It'd be my mouth to your ears. But that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 21, about 30 folks could hear me, which is a lot, 30. But that means no YouTube, no Zoom, no Chinese listeners, no Vietnamese translation. So we appreciate electricity and all it can do. So let's see, if we were to count it all up, I bet we have a special speaker for my laptop sound going out to you. We've got an HDMI cable making that projector shine it here, so you all don't need a book. We save trees that way. And then I'm wired into the house PA, which also goes out onto our mixing board, where some magician named Jerry over here makes it all happen so that YouTube and Zoom make it over across the planet. And then the folks in Australia can hear and translate what I'm saying into Putonghua. And our tireless Vietnamese translation team can translate what I'm saying into Vietnamese. And in the balcony, we have happy faces, young and old, looking down at me. and listening. And you guys have English up there? You're listening English, right? Yeah. So wait till warmer weather comes, we can take our masks off and can all hear what I'm saying, and I can see all your faces. But what a treat to be able to see living, breathing human beings looking back at me. I mean, there you are. I've been lecturing to a laptop screen and a handful of devoted, sincere disciples in Australia, but it's not the same thing as actually seeing people looking back. So, and we are currently here in a period of wet weather, which in the bigger picture in Australia, in Northern California, is a good thing, not a bad thing. If you have to get out in it and get onto, Highway 80, that's kind of a drag, but we'll take it. Take the wet. Now, we're not done with our protocols because we have to invoke spiritual presence and we have to acknowledge country. And then we have one more thing, which is brand new tonight, which you all get to see kind of for the first time in the last 20 years, I guess. But it used to be a part of every sutra lecture, which is called the bell song. As I look around, nobody here would remember. Graciela is probably the oldest veteran of our, not the oldest, but the oldest veteran, most seniority, let's say, more stripes on her sleeve of any other disciple here. 果圈果花, 你们记不记得 the bell song? 不会. That was part of Gold Mountain. You hadn't come yet, I don't think. 果花, well, let me sing it first, and you tell me if you remember it. All right. So, very interesting how this all happens. So anyway, let's do it. I'll tell you what I'm talking about, and we're going to do it from now on because it's one more piece of our sutra lecture protocol that's really nice, and it's based on tradition. Shifu taught us how to do it. We did it for a while and then stopped, and I don't know why we stopped, but Madalena reminded me that we used to do it. Shifu taught the disciples in Hong Kong that this is part of the sutra lecture process. So we're going to do it again because it's really neat. All right. So moving forward, here we go. And this part requires a banjo. Everybody remember Calvin and Hobbes? So one of my favorite Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin was contemplating mortality and death, right? Here's a 10-year-old kid contemplating death. And he said, seems to me like the point of being born is to be happy, he said. And Hobbes is looking like that. He says, when every child is born, immediately they should be issued a banjo, he said. I was like, yeah. All banjo players clip that one out and put it on the refrigerator with a magnet. So banjos are not universally appreciated. So it's nice to get a little bit of banjo appreciation. Here we go. So we're going to invite 100-year-old banjo, destroying a brand new projector screen. So this banjo has been singing in the world for over a century. Not anymore. I just destroyed it. Okay, so here we go. Tune it right up. Have to remember that. Hold on. The amazing thing about this banjo is it has a name. This is Maud Evans. The Maud Evans. Maud Evans was a British beer hall singer who sang with a banjo. I think she's long gone, but her banjo lives on. So banjos were popular in Britain in the early 20th century. Okay, here we go. Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Po Pu. One more, here we go. Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Po Pu Sa. Furthermore, acknowledging country, say the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo Ohlone people practice their spiritual connections to land and all creation in this location for tens of thousands of years. Today, we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of the lands on which we live, work, and where all activities take place. We recognize all First Nations peoples as the original storytellers of this land. We offer our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. So the Chochenyo Ohlone were the ones who, the Shell Mounds, do people know Shell Mound Road in Emeryville? You know why that's called Shell Mound Road? Because there used to be mounds of shells. The bay was a really, you knew that, Mio. I should have called on you. You had your hand in the air first. Okay. I wasn't looking. I'm really, yeah? Could you take your mask off so I can hear you? There you go. Okay, see? They're teaching kids something. That's really good. Yeah, thank you for that. Most people assume that that name is just kind of strange, but in fact, if you were an Ohlone tribe member, life was good because there were shellfish in the bay. You know, clams and oysters and abalones, and you just go down and net them and you can eat. And I suppose if you're a vegetarian, you probably ate soybean shellfish. No? Anyway, so the Ohlone people thrived here, and there was, intertribal violence, but not a lot. Apparently life was really good. There was enough for everybody. And interestingly, UC Berkeley is one of the places in the whole world where people have looked into the actual lives of the first peoples. But it's not always it's not always a happy story. So some of you will remember when I used to go take part in monthly meetings at the Interfaith Center at the Presidio, at the chapel over in the Presidio Park, right next to the Presidio graveyard, which you can see if you go drive through those roads. Reverend Paul Chaffee, who was the caretaker of the Interfaith Center, was a church, still lives in Santa Rosa now, a churchman who looked into these stories. He wanted to find the first stories. He wanted to find out about the elders, past, present, and emerging. So some people came forward whose ancestors had grown up on the farthest western edge of the Presidio, right by the base of the Golden Gate Bridge. We think of that as kind of a park, a retired military base. Well, it's only been that since the white folks came, which was in the blink of an eye. Before that, for thousands and thousands of years, the Moekwa Ohlone people lived there, not the Chochenyo, but the Moek, a different subgroup of the Ohlone tribes. And when the Bureau of Indian Affairs started to keep track, they said, we'd like all tribal peoples to come forward and get registered so we know who was here. Well, that's a step in the right direction, although it's kind of sad that the people who were the original storytellers, where all the activities took place, they basically just got moved out and wiped out. So the Moekwa Ohlone didn't have a representative. They had fallen through the cracks of the registry of tribal people until Reverend Paul Chaffee said, you know, these are the folks whose great-great-great-grandparents owned this land. If they didn't own it, though, they just lived there. They shared it with everyone. They didn't have the sense of, this is my land. So he said, why aren't they registered? And the Bureau of Indian Affairs said, we didn't know. They didn't get the word. They didn't show up when we called for it. So they said, guess what? These are the great-great-grandchildren of the people who used to be there. Put their names in the book. So they did. And because of the Interfaith Center's work and defending it, suddenly it's like, oh yeah, now we see you. You were invisible before, now we see you. So, wow, what a story, you know. All right, so there we go. And we will continue to acknowledge country. That's Kombumerri people in the Gold Coast. This initiative began with the government of Australia saying, it's time to acknowledge the First Peoples of Australia. And it's such an elegant and righteous thing to do, is to say, we came later. Everyone's an immigrant except these indigenous folks. Now, what about that new addition to our liturgy that you haven't heard before? It involves this. For those of you who are only hearing and can't see, I'm holding up a bell. Very nice bell. Master Hua taught us that before every lecture, there is a bell song. And it looks like this. See, I'm going to put this away first. Here it is. Okay. The Chinese, we don't remember how the Chinese did it. But Lani Bauer, the former Bhikshuni Heng Yin, third tone, not Heng Yin, current Heng Yin, but Heng Yin, she gave it a Western melody, which is a good one. The Chinese go something like this, and we don't have a melody for it, or we forgot the melody. It goes, 众生传3000界内，佛法扬万亿国中，功勋其法界和平，利益报檀诺厚德。And you go, what's that? Or you're not seeing the whole thing? There we go. All right. I can't see what you're seeing. So, okay. And I should have gone halfway through it. I should have gone, here's the way it sounds in English. And this is another opportunity for one of you to get in the middle and sing it. Everyone goes, don't look at me. There we go. The bell sounds wide resound throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it find the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. And that's the bell sound, which just goes on and on. Wonderful bell. So that's the bell song. And Shifu said it should be part of every lecture. It's really simple. Let's see. And again, da da dee da da dee da dum, da dee da 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 dum, da da dee da dum. So it's one line repeated over and over and over, right? Except for one variation. So that's the bell song. And it's really nice because it's about the bell. And when let's see if we can mess around with the bell. Here we go. If you have a really good bell, you kind of get the feeling. If you are in a mountain valley that happens to have a monastery and it's misty and morning ceremony is over and you're kind of a little bit sleepy, but you've been going for a long time and you're on that vibration level, and then you hear this bong, and it comes off the mountain on the other side of the valley back at you, and you go, I get the bell sound. This is one of the best things of human fabrication, and it's hard. If anybody been to, is it Sanyi in Taiwan? 金佛师那个有一小城，他们做钟的是3-1吧？3-1哈，靠近台中中部。3-1, there's a town in Taiwan especially where they make these, and you go by one of the shops, and all day long you're hearing as these 12-year-old kids learn their trade from the grandpa who's bang, 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 bang. Amazing how they create these. And there's a bell. That's a real bell. This is a real bell. That's a real bell. Yeah. We could actually put Miho in there. Not to give you any ideas, dude. Sometime, where'd he go? Oh, look in the bell. Oh, hey, come out of there. What are you doing in there? So he's just the right size. All right. The bell sound wide resounds, we could also say, throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world, semicolon. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it find the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. There it is. So we can, if anybody wants to think of a creative way to add this, I think it has to be before the lecture. So, and I don't, Master Hua didn't really tell us. Do you want to hear it? Let's since we're doing some creative reforming of our liturgy. Let's take a listen here. This is what, here we go. This is where Madalena reminded us of how it used to be. 国华你没有听过吧？有没有？没有。果娟没有啊？没有。你们是 Yeah, you came too late. But for some reason we just stopped doing it, and we shouldn't, because it's really good. I'm looking for this. A. One moment, please. There it is. Okay, so here's what we heard. Before the Dharma Master explains the sutra, you should recite the bell song. You've never done it before, right? I know you don't know how. So I know that you know this and that, various pieces of the liturgy, but after this, we're going to do the bell song. So before the sutra begins, the monk or whoever is lecturing gets up on the platform, and we sing the bell song. Okay, and it goes like this, says Shifu. Zhongsheng, bell sound is taught or transmitted 3,000 realms inside. So the bell sound resounds widely over the triple realm. Okay. And the Buddha Dharma is propagated throughout 10,000 million countries. Voila. 功德 not 功勋，功德德 yeah, better, huh? 功德 and then Shifu said 传一 sorry 说 okay. So its merit and virtue is a prayer for peace in the Dharma realm, peace in the world. And it brings benefits and rewards for the donors, for the lay community whose virtue is thick. So the bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread. The Buddha's law is kind of we don't translate fa as law. The Buddha, the Dharma, the Buddha's Dharma. Working on it. All throughout the triple world, the wondrous sound that everywhere fills the Dharma realm with peace. This is nicely done. May those who hear it find the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. That last line is really different, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, we're still working on it, but there you go. Bell sound. So we're going to add that. Shifu finishes up by saying, he says this is mostly sung, and there are some who sing it really beautifully. There are some people who, when they perform this, it's just wonderful. I was in Tianjin, and Dharma Master Tanshu was explaining the Shurangama Sutra. And the monk who was there sang the bell song, and it was really beautiful. His voice just was great. So do we know, just for what it's worth here, our very own Madalena Tanmujie was at one point, she was just a girl in Hong Kong when Master Hua was teaching there for 10 years. Shifu came out. Master Empty Cloud, our teacher's teacher, our grand teacher, sent Master Xuanhua outside of China. He said, you go to America along with a monk called Chirding Fasher. He said, you go to America and spread the Dharma, build monasteries and make it work. So in 1949, Master Hua went out, and like a month later, 1949 was the big turnaround, and nobody left China after that. That was when the Civil War came to its end, and monks were no longer allowed to leave for a long time. So Shifu was that last generation out, and he's following instructions. He went to Hong Kong and taught for 10 years and waited for conditions to ripen so that he could come to America. And before he got to America, he went to Australia. And in Australia, life was hard. Nobody made offerings. They didn't have the you could say the Da Cheng Gen Xing, the Mahayana nature was not there yet. So he returned to Hong Kong, came to the US. And Madalena and her sister, Stella, were the two who were most responsible for bringing Master Hua to San Francisco. So at one point, Shifu turned to Madalena and said, we've got to get the ceremonies, got to get them here as part of the Buddha Dharma. And you go learn them from Master Shulang. Master Shulang was also in Hong Kong. He was another Dongbei person, a Manchurian from northeastern China. And he was the monk who's famous for his ceremonies. He just amazing. I had a chance to hear him do a ceremony, and you just knew that this was somebody who, the word zizai, somebody who was had self-mastery when it came to singing and chanting. His voice was just, it vibrated. It made the air thick and resonant between his mouth and your ears. Just wonderful. So Madalena was his student. He taught her all the different ways to do it. So she last week said, why did we forget the bell song? So we won't. We're going to add that. Okay, that's the story of the bell song. Yeah, Jerry. Could be to the Tang Dynasty. Let's see now. We need to research that. Can you possibly copy that down and send it over? Great. Okay, all kinds of scholarship like that are particularly welcome. Anybody who can trace it back and find a diangu, that's really important. Okay. It's good to be back, seeing everybody. By golly. Glad we're all here. Billy. The triple world. All throughout the triple world. The triple world is it's sometimes called the triple realm, the three realms, the desire, the form, and the formless is Ket. And what is this? It's the Buddha saying that Bai Zhang Huai Hai. Oh, so Bai Zhang, okay. That's the monastic rule. The rules for the monks. Bell song, sheng sanjiu wang gong xun. Oh, so Shifu said gongde, but it's originally gong xun. All right, thank you for that. I'm going to copy that out before we lose it. Put that right here. Thank you for the citation. Okay. So the Buddha said, there are worlds operating that we don't see right now. What do we call them? Parallel universes, I guess. They're happening right now. And it's essentially, this is the Buddha's map of the universe, of our world. He says there's the desire realm. The desire realm is where we live right now. That's the one we see. And it goes from the hells, which the Buddha described as real and hot and awful. They're happening right now. Then there's the realm of ghosts, which we don't see unless you watch a lot of Disney films. And then it's Casper the Friendly Ghost and the kind of thing. And it's the sutras, if you read the Earth Sutra, you know about the realm of ghosts. Then there's the realm of animals. Those three are called the evil destinies, or the places of hardship. It's not easy to be in an animal's body because they're mostly eaten by other animals and run over by cars, or worse, eaten by humans. You know, the billions of animals every year are killed for food. So those are the three. Then there's the three not so awful destinies. One is Asuras, like Titans. There's the human realm and the gods, the Devas. So that's all the desire realm. And we come back. What's the difference between the hells and the heavens? It's the body that we get. Why do we get a different body? Some male, some female, some born in this country, others born in that country. It's because of our blessings. That's the difference. If we have a lot of blessings, we can get born in the heavens. We're a god. So what do we have? We have the richest man in the world competition. You know, Elon Musk or Carlos, who's the Mexican? Carlos. He's got a one-syllable name. How do you spell? Zim. Lim. S-I-M, Sim. Slim, Carlos Slim, that's it. And he's not, he's kind of big. So yeah, Carlos Slim. He's the like always like second or third richest man in the world from Mexico. And then we got, you know, he who shall not be named, who's destroying Twitter, you know. So imagine, and anybody who's the richest man in the world compared to the blessings of the gods is just playing around in the sandbox. He just doesn't count. The blessings of the gods is like, you know, luxury that we can't imagine. Shifu would describe it. He'd say, if you like clothing, maybe you're into, you know, Ming Pai, name brands. You said, you think of it and it's on. You want to change it, change your thoughts. You're wearing something different. What kind of food do you like? Think of it, and it's there in front of you, all you want. And so the body of gods, and there's numerous heavens according to this description, just can't compare with us, who like have to mask up because there's a germ in the air that'll kill you if you get in your lungs. It's called COVID, you know. So blessings, that's the desire realm. Okay, what's next? The form realm. And don't know where those names came from, but that's what they're called. The form realm is another way of being in a god's body, god or goddess, male or female. And it begins with samadhi. What's the difference between a desire realm god and a form realm god is how well you meditate. Honest. So if you meditate really well and you can enter samadhi, particularly dhyana samadhi, and Shifu would talk about first, second, third, fourth dhyanas, chu chan, er chan, san chan, si chan, he would say. Depending on how well you meditate, you get a body that doesn't experience desire. You don't look at something and go, oh, I need that, I want that, and it pulls you out. And desire is really, really quiet in the minds and bodies of a deva in the form realm. So why? You feel perfectly at home in your own skin. That's what it means. Desire is like, oh, I'm not enough. I'm not sufficient. I need that before I'm enough, whole, perfect, better than my mother told me I was, good enough to make it through the night. All the things that desire messes with us. It makes us think that we're not enough. And who else tells you that? Advertising tells us that, doesn't it? Advertising is always there saying, you need more. Come and buy this product. Trade your hard-earned dollars for this, and then you'll be happy. And then strangely enough, we're not. That's the thing about desire, is it can't be satisfied. Never satisfied, never enough. The gods in the form realm go, no, I'm fine. I like to meditate. When I meditate, I get this full body buzz because my mind is not always whispering that I need more, I need more, I need more. So that's the form realm. And there's like 28 levels that the Buddha talked about. So that's nice, being a god. And if you read the stories, the Buddha's biography stories, the devas coming down from the form realm would supervise the prince, supervise Siddhartha, and keep him on the track of cultivation because he wasn't the Buddha yet. And then once he became the Buddha, he originally, you've all heard this story, right? The Buddha, when he woke up, thought, nobody's going to get this. We're too stuck on desire. I'm going to enter nirvana now. I'm out. I'm gone, And so the form realm gods came down and said, please don't forget your vows. Some of living beings will get it. They're suffering like mad. They're hurting. Please speak the Dharma. And he still couldn't make up his mind. He walked around the Bodhi tree for 21 days trying to figure out if it was going to work. And he finally said, okay, he wandered off to the deer park and spoke Dharma for the first bhikshus. And 49 years later, entered nirvana. And everything that the Buddha taught, he taught in those 49 years between the form realm gods saying, go Buddha, speak Dharma. Go Buddha, pom-poms, right? Speak Dharma, right? So give me a D, D. Give me an H, H. What's it spell? We don't know Sanskrit. Dharma, what's it spell? Dharma. What's it spell? Dharma. So he did. And he went out. The Ohlone Way is a good book. We have a recommendation for a book known as The Ohlone Way. Go find it. I will. Thank you for that. So what about the formless realm? The last one. That's a really interesting and kind of bizarre, the way the Buddha described it, which is there are 4 more heavens on top of the form realm. And they're called the 4 stations of emptiness, because the gods. Oh, and by the way, as you go up through the desire realm and the form realm, your body gets better and better, and your lifespan gets longer and longer. But when you get to the formless realm, there are only 4 heavens, and one is called the station of emptiness, infinite emptiness, the station of infinite consciousness, the station of nothing whatsoever, and the last one, Jinchuan, test. The last one is called neither form nor not form. I'm fuzzy on them. That doesn't sound quite right. Yeah, somebody's going to do, okay, Jerry, challenge the online folks. Ask them for the names of the 4. So 4 heavens, and the gods there, they don't have bodies. They're only consciousness. Their bodies are so refined that there's just this consciousness, and their lifespans are like tens of thousands of years in this kind of non-corporeal state where there's no body. And after that, what's next is arhat ship. You're out of a body at that point. So that's answered Billy's question, is what's the all throughout the triple world, right? The three realms. So the thing about the desire realm, the form, and the formless realm is everybody in those realms dies. All the gods still mortal. They're not done with birth and death. So that's why Shifu would say, the heavens, not recommended. You want to go to heaven? He said, I wouldn't, because your time comes to an end and your blessings run out and you come back. You can fall from the form realm back into the body of a human. And so it's a wonderful place to discuss it's kind of gee whiz Buddha Dharma, gee whiz theology, such as, what if, hold that thought, don't forget, what if the richest humans are former gods who lost their blessings and fell, but they still had more blessings than anybody else? They're like former gods. Can you see Bill Gates as a former god? Stretch, So who, you wonder. So the key to where you go up or down in hells, ghosts, animals, asuras, humans, devas, and then 28 more devas, and then 4 more devas, where you wind up in those has to do with your fu bao, your blessings. So if you're a deva, why are you born in the heavens? It's because of your blessings. Where do your blessings come from? And the answer is, I asked Shifu directly, Shifu, where do blessings come from? He said, Ling qi ta ren huan xi. He said, make other people happy. That's where you get blessings. Simple, right? Simple answer. And of course, you have to unpack that, because there's all the stories are inside Ling qi ta ren huan xi, making others happy. What does that mean, making others happy? So think about that. Shifu, then he said, 不是单单令自己欢喜. You don't spend your whole life making yourself happy, because that's how you 烧福, you burn your blessings by only trying to satisfy desire. How much coffee can you drink? How much alcohol can you consume without just poisoning your system? And yet that desire is not over. You still want, even though your body can't handle it. I have a story, and some of you have heard me tell this story, but boy, I will never forget how much trying to satisfy desire does not make you happy, and it burns your blessings. We had in Toledo, those of you who are school teachers and educators, we had a series of tests that were, I think it was the state of Ohio mandated tests, and I forget the name. They were something like it's funny, behind masks, I can't hear what people are saying. Yeah, it wasn't that. No, it was like somebody convinced the Ohio Board of Education to pass it, and it was an aptitude test, but it wasn't like SAT, PSAT, GRE, MCAT. It wasn't like that. But everybody had to take it. And we had a really, really good ice cream parlor in our community on the way to my high school. It was called Franklin Ice Cream Store. And the lady behind the counter's name was Alma. And Alma really liked kids. She was really sweet. And we used to go on our way home from school, we'd stop in and get a nickel ice cream cone. Ice cream cones cost 5 cents. And so on the menu on the wall behind Alma was all of the special treats that they served, like ice cream sundaes and malted milks and ice cream sodas and root beer floats and all these goodies. And then there was one thing called the kitchen sink. And the kitchen sink was 23 scoops of ice cream, one of every flavor that they had. There was only 23 flavors. And it had bananas. It was, banana splits. I left out the banana splits. Uh, it had like 3 bananas, 23 scoops of ice cream, caramel syrup, melted chocolate syrup, crushed peanuts, nuts, and then a cherry on top and whipped cream. That was the kitchen sink. And it was in a special dish like that. And you had to, And so Alma, who liked kids, said, all right, I know that you're all going to have to take this statewide test. And whoever gets the highest score wins a kitchen sink. And we're like, oh, So we all took the test. And guess who got the highest score? My brother. No, I did. I did. And so it's like we had our group of classmates who used to go by Franklin Ice Cream Store. And they all came in with me to watch me, get my prize. And so it wasn't a smarts test. It had to do with aptitude of some sort. It wasn't, So I'd like, okay, kitchen sink. And so Alma said, okay, here you go. And she said, and how many spoons do you want? And I said, well, one. And so I sat down at the counter and everybody was like that, oh, so neat. And I started to eat it. And I ate for like 20 minutes and I made a little dent in it, not even a quarter of it. And there was nobody around me. I was there all alone. And I looked around and it was like, where did everybody go? And Alma was standing behind the counter going like that. You're going to try to eat it all yourself, she said. And I thought, yeah, I won, didn't I? I was miserable and I had a stomach ache and I was all alone. No fun. And she knew, how many spoons do you want? Oh, just one. I can only hold, I could hold 2, I suppose, So Shifu said, Ling Taren, Ling Chi Taren Huanxi, making other people happy. All I had to do was like, everybody get a spoon. Let's all sit around and eat it together and chat and have fun. And they remember that. Wow, we had a kitchen sink. Who won it? I forget, but it was really good. That would have been blessings. But as a result,
I believe the question is, she says that in the ice cream story, you talked about you were satisfying other people's desires. So are you helping people stay in the realm of desire because you're just satisfying desire?
Too complicated. That's too much of a lawyer's question. Don't think like that. Just it's way simpler. You know, you don't have that's two thoughts already. So how are you ever going to satisfy that? You've let that second thought in and they're just going to go, right? First thought, you know when it's like it moves, desire burns. Okay, so thank you, Winnie, for that. Patrice is Googling and he's got 6 steps. That's the desire realm, Patrice, the desire realm. Yeah. Let's see, vocational aptitude test. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, that's Bill from Cascade, Colorado, the former Bhikshu Hung Lu, novice Hung Lu. So yeah, good, plugged in. It's nice to have people's comments. So Patrice, those are the first 6, which I didn't name. Okay, we haven't even touched the sutra yet, and we're almost done. So this is good. See the trouble you caused by asking that question? So yeah, so this is the realm of gods, and it's just, I mean, to think, here I am giving you the story. I don't see the realms of gods, but there's crossover. I grew up in a culture strongly influenced by the cultures of ancient Greece and Rome, well, Hellenistic cultures. And so we learned about Aristotle and we learned about Plato, right? And we absorbed the mythology of the Greeks and Romans. Zeus, chief among gods. And if you people know the name Edith Hamilton, if anybody is hungry to learn about Greek and Roman mythology, pick up books by the author Edith Hamilton, Hamilton. Edith Hamilton's mythology has been the standard, and she popularized these old stories, Edith Hamilton's mythology. And Edith Hamilton transmits these old legends about things like Mount Olympus. Anybody remember Mount Olympus? I don't know what grade we get the mythology. So Mount Olympus that's where the gods live. And there's a phenomenon happening on Mount Olympus, which is Titans, Titans. What are the Titans? They are these beings with huge bodies and fierce natures, and they're always challenging the gods on Mount Olympus for ownership of the polar mountain. They want to knock the gods off of Mount Olympus and take over, and they never quite get there. The gods come up, the gods fight. So you can be born in the heavens and still go to war. Think of that. Heaven is not totally copacetic and cool. You have to fight for it. Now, okay, that's Edith Hamilton's mythology talks about that. Titans and gods, Mount Olympus. You go to the Avatamsaka Sutra, you read a chapter called the Shen Shou Pin. We translated it as Worthy Leader chapter. What's the story going on at the Shen Shou Pin? It says, oh, there's this mountain, and it's called Sumeru, Shumi Shan, Miao Gao Shan, wonderfully tall mountain. And the Devas there, this is heaven number 2 of the desire realm. Not the highest by any means. It's only heaven number 2 out of 6. And the god in charge there is named Chakra Devanam Indra. You've heard of him. Di Shitian, Chakra. He's in charge there, but you know what? He's always fighting off attacks from Asuras, sometimes called Asuras, depending on how you use that S in Sanskrit. Let's say Asuras. What are the Asuras? They're these nasty beings with huge bodies who are always trying to knock the gods off Mount Sumeru, particularly the gods of the 33. And you go, wait a minute, I read about that. in Edith Hamilton's stories about the Greeks. You go, yeah. So some other early peoples tell the same story, but with different names for the combatants. The Avatamsaka Sutra, in the chapter called the Shenshopin, goes into detail. It's amazing. This chapter of Dharma Master Heng Chur is currently lecturing on the Shensho chapter. Anybody tune into Heng Chur Fosher's lectures regularly? They're going on. I think you have to be invited to the group, but fantastic series, really, really worth it. So what happens in the heaven of it's called the heaven of the 33 gods, Sanshi Santian, also known as the Tri-Streamsha heaven, where Lord Chakra is the gods. It says, let me tell you, this is a preview from another chapter. We haven't actually touched our chapter yet tonight. So I'm giving you kind of previews of coming attractions if we decide we're going to lecture on that. So it says, in the heavens, there's this blessing. Remember that word? Fu bao. Being a deva in the second level of the desire realm heavens, heaven of the 33, means as a deva there, when the Asuras come to war, there's a drum. It's called the Tiangu, the drum of the heavens. And what happens? Whenever, it's like a distant early warning system. Remember the DO system when the Russians were going to launch missiles at us? The DO system was supposed to, what was it? Called the civil defense. 640 and 1240 on your AM radio dial. None of you know this. You're all too young. Come on. If the Russians attack, and of course, when, you know, Reagan was our governor and then our president, it was going to happen any minute. Those are the days of anti-communism. Now the Republicans embrace the communists for some reasons. We twisted our, never mind, we won't go there tonight. But so the idea was when the devas are under attack by the Asuras, the heavenly drum goes boom, 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 boom. Here come the Asuras. And the devas know to grab for their celestial weapons and hit the trenches and fight off the Asuras. The Avatamsaka Sutra tells a story about warfare in the heavens. And it goes into detail even more. It says Chakra, chief among gods, Di Shutian, he has a special kind of Gong Fu. He has Shantong, he's got psychic powers, part of being chief among gods. What does he do? He changes his body into a ferocious warrior with tusks coming out of his mouth, eyes that shoot thunderbolts, and in his hand, he's got a Vajra pestle, and he can divide his body into the way that every single Ashura coming charging up Mount Sumeru to knock the gods off sees Chakra coming at him alone with all his 1,000 hands, each holding a pestle, looking ferocious. And the Asuras look at him and go, oh, I ain't going to mess with that. And they turn around and run the other way. And it's all a ruse. It's all just a combination of Gong Fu and psychic powers. Warfare in the heavens. Why aren't you reading the Avatamsaka Sutra? I mean, you wouldn't have to have me tell you this stuff. How neat is that? A description of how the gods fight. So there's no actual bloodshed. They just manifest this awful looking warrior form, and the Asuras go, ah. So the Asuras are kind of stateless terrorists. They don't have a place to call home, and they want to turn Mount Sumeru into their home. And then you go back and you read Edith Hamilton, you go, boy, that sure sounds familiar. Could it be that this is actually happening? And the ancient Greeks and Romans saw it, and the ancient Hindus and Brahmanas, and then the Buddha saw it. Because why? Because it's real. Interesting. So yeah, the Avatamsaka Sutra has been around for 2,500 years in various forms, and it talks about old stories. So here we are in the year 2022, still remembering, still digging in and touching our roots as people. That's what these are. This is our founding stories across national boundaries. Doesn't matter if you're an ancient Greek. Doesn't matter if you grew up in northeastern China. Doesn't matter if you grew up in Mexico. These are our stories shared in our roots of our humanity. So how neat that Master Hua said, open these sutras, read them. You need these to understand who you are, where you've been, so you can avoid making the same mistakes that we've been making for thousands of years. So cool. All right. Fa Shi, where do the deities live? The deities live in heaven. Heavens, plural. Where are the heavens? Well, the tendency is to want to do this, like up there. You raise your head up. And because we're, oh, by the way, I watched a YouTube clip yesterday. Somebody anchored a camera on a ball bearing base so that he could capture the rotation of the earth from one spot. And it was really uncanny to see right this minute, you're all sitting, I'm sitting, we're moving. We're doing this. What happens this way? 24 hours later, we come back to the same spot. It's called a day. We're moving around our core. And here was a photographer who showed it for the first time. And it was like you watch it, you want to go, whoa, you grab onto something solid because whoa, we're moving through space. And our feet are mostly attached to the earth. So where do you go to look for the heavens is like out there. So is it really like, can you reach it in a rocket ship? Can you reach it, how do you get there? That's not the way to think about it. Another way to think about it is, it's here. Where is the gateway to the heavens and everywhere else is, the Buddhists would say, don't look out, look in, because the fastest way to get to the heavens, ling qi ta ren huan qi, make other people happy. Cultivate blessings. Why, when we're born, are we healthy and we get through the pandemic without major disaster? We live a long life. Diseases come and go, but they don't knock us off our feet. And other people they're not allowed to come into the world. They have complications at birth, or they're born with bodies that don't support them, right? The answer is blessings. That's the difference. Fu bao, fu qi. Somebody who has blessings applies for the job and they get the job. Applies for the fellowship, they get the fellowship. The plane crashes and they, miss the flight and they're still back at the airport when they hear that the plane, that's the difference between blessings and no blessings. So where do they come from? We need to investigate that. It's not simply being unselfish, but that was the answer Shifu gave. Also, look at the Earth Store Sutra and you read the 28 benefits that come from returning and relying on the Bodhisattva King of Great Vows. I return, I rely on the Bodhisattva King of Great Vows. Those are the blessings that come from reciting the Earth Store Sutra, etc. So this is what the Buddha this is wisdom. When you hear it and you go, yeah, I'll live that way. I will foster well-being and I will avoid anything that hurts others. Okay, Connie, I told you to hold that thought. Are you still holding that thought? Okay, what was your question?
Where would like Pure Land and Tushita Heaven and like all those Buddha lands like lie, and like where would they fall in the category of those three realms?
Something's wrong with my ears. It's got to be me.
Like where would like Buddha lands, like Pure Land, and like Chishita heavens and all, like the Buddha lands where we go up to cultivate in Buddhism, like where does that like fall in the category of those three worlds?
Okay, what I heard from that was, where does that fall in the category of three? I didn't hear the
Pure Land, like where would
Pure lands. Pure lands. Where do the
Pure
pure
Land,
lands
Pure Land.
fall in the categories
Land.
of the three realms?
Okay, Pure Land. It's another story entirely. It's yet one more story. The thing about the Pure Land teaching, the Amitabha and the Western Land, that is, it's a unique among the 49 years of Dharma the Buddha gave us. At one point, he said, everybody sit down. I'm going to tell you a story. You don't know even to ask about this one. And he proceeded to talk about Amitabha's vows. It's called 问字说, spoken without request. All the other teachings of Dharma, somebody had to ask. Shifu, what do we do? We got a problem. And then the Buddha would solve the problem, or sometimes he would say, okay, I'm going to talk about the Avatamsaka. I'm going to talk about the lotus. I'm going to talk about the Shurangama. But there was one time when the Buddha said, there is this monk named Fa Zhang who wanted to make a world where nothing died, where there was no suffering at all. And he did. And he cultivated, and his vows created this place called Sukhabati, land of ultimate happiness. That's the story. And so it's not part of the three realms. It's another story. So these are, the questions tonight are kind of like Buddhist geography. Go east and you get to Reno. Go west and you fall into the ocean. Go north, you might get to Vancouver. Go south and you cross the border, So only from the Buddhist eyes. So that's good. That's good. And this is these are basics that it helps to learn these things as we go. So as we get to, we're going to do a verse tonight. As we get to our sutra, it's happening in the heavens, isn't it? Oop, come back. Window. It's happening in the heavens. And you say, oh, heavens? What heavens? You say, right. It's happening in the Suyama heaven, which is what? Heaven number 3 of the 6 desire realm heavens. Here it is right here. All right. So, Connie, does that help? Does that make sense? It's another story. And we know about it because of 3 sutras. If you listen to Jin Fosher every week is lecturing one of the 3 Amitabha Sutras. There's only 3. And that's the whole story is contained there. If you go to the monks at Abhayagiri, you say, teach me about Amitabha and the Pure Land, they say, never heard of it. It's not part of the Theravada teaching. It's a Mahayana story. And this, likewise, Medicine Buddha. He created a Pure Land in the East, not the West. So essentially, we have those 2. We got Amitabha, the land of utmost happiness, and Medicine Buddha, the land of Eastern lapis lazuli light. Liu Li Guang Shijie is the Eastern Pure Land. Both those stories are like separate containers. And if you look in the back, all those books back there, and all those books back there, there are stories in those sutras that we haven't even touched. There's so many, they're so rich that the sutras that Master Hua taught us are kind of the most popular of the Mahayana sutras. There's more. For example, the story of Maitreya, the Buddha to come, Mila Pusa. His teachings are also in 3 sutras. So yeah, and your head kind of spins after a while. It's like so much. Yeah, there's a lot. So, okay, let's pick out the next verse. Let's do this one. Okay, I'll give you a line. You get it back. ye xing ban kong ji, ye xing ban kong ji, zhong shang so yi zhi, zhong shang so yi zhi, pu zuo zhong si xiang, yi fu wu lai chu. The nature of karma is entirely empty and still, entirely empty and still, yet sentient beings rely upon karma. Yet sentient beings rely upon karma to appear in their many shapes and forms. Yet this too comes from nowhere. From nowhere. Yeah. Like all of our many shapes and forms, and I'm looking at numerous shapes and forms here. Think about your parents. Think about your pets. Think about your third grade teacher. All of us, we all come from nowhere, and yet you knew their names. They were important to you. They still are. And that's the Buddha Dharma. Now you see it. Now you see him. Now you don't. Now you see her. Now you don't. Living in the Australian bush, it's really clear how fragile life is. I think I told you the story, but it's again, it made such an impression. I'm sitting on my couch in my single room house. I have a small house, and there's a screen door between me and the porch and the forest. And a moth, beautiful moth, lands on my screen door, and I'm looking and appreciating its appearance, and it's got these delicate patterns on its wings, and it's slowly fanning its wings. And I'm watching and think, oh, that's interesting. And then this black shadow looms up, opens its beak, gone. And the butcher bird goes gulp. Very proud of itself. Lunch. You know, I'm like, where'd the moth go? Lunch. But faster than I could notice, his life ended, and the butcher bird ate. Proper food for a butcher bird. And it's like, yeah, it's just that fast. So was the moth alive? Yeah, but he was alive in the stomach of the bird. That's their food. So it's like, oh my God. And you could say that when we go, we don't know any more than the moth did about where we go and why it was our time. And the answer is karma. And what is karma? The answer is what we do. For good or for ill, of this we will be the heir. So yeah, there it is. And you could look at that and go, oh, that's so scary. That's so cold. Or you can say, thanks for the heads up. Knowing the rules about the universe, I'm going to find a way to ling qi ta ren wan qi, make other people happy and making myself happy at the same time. I'm going to make sure everybody's got a spoon as we all sit around the kitchen sink thinking about how good that ice cream must be, and make the blessing side of my life ledger heavy and the offenses and harmfulness side of my ledger lighter. That way you're living what? Wisely, skillfully, and compassionately. So that's the message here. Time has gone so fast. I prepared something. I was thinking, what song? Do I have a song to share? And I thought, hey, I do. And it's an underappreciated song of my various songs. And it goes like this. And if I were to sing, it's got a lot of verses, but let me give you just a little. Now that we heard the principle from the sutra, we can plug it into this song and see if we can walk out whistling it. Wise ones know we plant a seed with every word and deed. Once we plant it, here comes karma now. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, makes us happy, makes us sad. Choose wisely, here comes karma now. Karma is not heaven sent. Karma is not punishment. Weed your garden, here comes karma now. There's no lawyer you can call. The judge and the jury just left the hall. Learn the rules, use good sense. This is cause and consequence. This song is full of puns, so you have to excuse me. So, okay, like the seed, so is the fruit. If you know the leaf, you know the root, because they're connected. Can't argue. Here comes karma now. You did it. I did it. Conscience is a quiet voice to answer the question. You know when desire rises. Pay your money, take your choice. It's your harvest because it was yours planting. Here comes karma now. It's not luck. It's not fate. There's no room to negotiate. No fooling. Here comes karma now. Once we plant it, it's really there. It plays no favorites, hears no lies, doesn't truck with alibis. You can threaten, you can curse, but you can't rewire the universe. This is the way it works. Some are careful with the roots, they're contented with the fruits. Plant and harvest, here comes karma now. Some are careless at the start, at the end a broken heart. No excuses, here comes karma now. Here comes one of those awful puns. You can smile till it hurts. Help yourself to just desserts. Pay the piper, here comes karma now. Blame the scapegoat, cry and wail. Ask the woman with the scales. Lady Justice, right? Blind, holding the scales. Blind justice tells no tales. Who goes home and who goes to jail? Ain't no lawyer gets away. Ain't no judge that you can pay. Just like magic, here comes karma now. Just like magic, here comes karma now. Just like magic, here comes karma now. Okay, that's a brief instruction on karma. Just all of the different ways I could think to say that is already in our culture. It's like pay the piper, you know. What else do we have? Say, choose wisely, grasshopper, because why? Karma's coming, good and bad. Karma's neutral. It depends on what we do. The judge and the jury, they're gone. Now it's time to understand cause and consequence. Can't argue over it. So there you go. Thank you for sticking around long enough for me to sing that for you. Now, Billy listened last week and said he went out and actually bought a copy of Golovinka's Heavy, Volume 1, 870 pages, mind you. It's a lot of paper. This is Volume 1 of the 3-volume Avatamsaka Sutra translation in English. Got it on Amazon. So, and the print is not too small. It's small print, but it's readable. Nicely done. If I have weak eyes and I can still read it. And so Billy's question was, what is this? Very appropriate. It's a doorstop, only, no, I'm kidding. That's an appropriate question because wise readers of the Avatamsaka Sutra advise do not start on chapter 1, page 1, unless you're a monster of samadhi and you have a great patience mind. What did he say to do? He said, you need a map to the Avatamsaka. It's vast. So this is one volume. You imagine 3 of these stacked up like that. He said, start with chapter 40. That's volume 3. Sorry, Billy. So that's not a trick to get you to buy all 3. No, he said, there's one key to the whole sutra, which is chapter 40, known as Pu Xian Heng Yuan Pin, Samantabhadra's practices and vows. It's a short chapter, and it provides a key to the cultivation of the rest of the sutra. He says, okay, read that chapter and see if you like it. And if you like it and you want more, go to what's called my brain just went blink, not the Fan Heng, the Jing Heng Pin, the purifying practices chapter, and read that. We did it, we lectured that here before, and that's, this is chapters 1 to 25, okay. He says, if you like the purifying practices chapter, go to the Brahma practices chapter, Fan Heng Pin. Those are the first 3 he advises. They're all short, they're all readable, there's recognizable people in them, and you get tremendous Avatamsaka flavor from them. He says, if you're not tired, if you want more, go to the 10 practices, Shi Heng Pin. He said, then at that point, you're ready for the Shi Di Pin, the 10 stages chapter, which we just finished lecturing after, 6 years were we at it? And he said, then you get the Bodhisattva path. So Billy said, is this about Bodhisattvas? The answer, yes, it is. But you need to know how to build up slowly. Why don't you start with chapter 1, page 1? It's because the Buddha begins and he starts naming who's there. Long lists of bodhisattvas. Then there's a description of where he is. And it's all full of adornments. And it's wonderful, but it just goes on a very long time before, quote, anything happens, right? And so you have to get to chapter 10, chapter 9. And I might add, Marty, Friday nights, is explaining chapter 9. What happens in chapter 9 is bodhisattvas show up, 10 of them, for the first time, and they start asking questions, and there's a dialogue. So from chapter 9 on, there's something happening. Right now, our Avatamsaka retranslation group is working on chapter 5, names of worlds. Above that, in the southwest direction, is a world. This name is Radiant Lapis Lazuli Light. Its lands are adorned with brilliant gems, bordered with gold, melodious trees. And now, up on top of that, in the southeastern direction, is a world named Lion's Roar. And that word, you go, it's a slog. Or you could say it's a practice for samadhi. If your mind is already able to, free from desire, free from self, it's spectacular. But for somebody who wants something to happen so their minds can follow it, you have to move ahead through the sutra. So that's the answer. And so this goes on to chapter 25, just short of the 10 practices. You can go to Pure Conduct, chapter 11, Brahma Conduct, chapter 16, the 10 practices, chapter 21. We are currently with chapter 20, right here. You just read a piece of chapter 20 together. So anyway, congratulations. This is a treasure. And I think it's $28 per volume. And there are 2 more to go. So we expect a report next week, Billy, on, so book report. All right. So how are we doing in Australia? Everybody listening in China to Kevin's tireless translation. Sam and Cliff are putting it out, and our Vietnamese translation team is working hard. We will go to our Berkeley Monastery website. Jin Chuansher, you want to tell us what's going on? Monastery, go. Anything to report?
I think you see on the website, December 25th, we have the Great Compassion Mantra Dedication of Merit.
Can you all see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Reverend Sure will still be lecturing next Saturday and also lecturing on Sunday. He will be
next Saturday. I'm in Toledo.
You said you could come back and lecture.
I'll be back. Yeah. If all goes well. That's right.
If all goes well.
My plane arrives that morning.
So,
okay. 70 folks listening in China tonight.
And then tomorrow night, Jing Forsher will be lecturing on the Pure Land.
Okay.
Who had questions about the Pure Land? I think the topic is spreading the Pure Land far and wide.
Spreading the Pure Land far and wide. Tomorrow night.
And so you'll be on the CTTB live YouTube stream. And after that,
let me show everybody how to do that. So tomorrow night, Jin Forsher is going to do the City of 10,000 Buddhas Sunday night lecture online.
Yeah.
You go out to YouTube. Now, some of us listening can't do that. So you go, is it on Zoom also or not? So the Chinese, they can't get YouTube.
I think it is actually.
Okay.
So
what you do, you go past the Golden State Warriors game. I know that's hard to do, the highlights there. We want to see how many points Steph scored this week. So you go out to CTTB live, right?
Yep.
CTTB live, City of 10,000 Buddhas live. There it is. And you discover City of 10,000 Buddhas live. And look at this. Hey. Dharma Master Jin Fo spreading the Pure Land far and wide. Live in 22 hours.
Can't wait.
There you go. Right there. Click on that. And you can hear Jin Fosher's stories and exhortation to cultivate Pure Land Dharma.
And
there's only one person waiting already. Jin Fosher, Yoren Zadra Dung.
I think that might be you, Dharma Master.
Huh?
That might be you.
Oh, that's me. What's Zadra Dung?
Just 22 hours.
Okay. All right. What else?
And the Amitabha session at CDB has it will begin, I think, as well. That's the kind of the kickoff for the CDB Amitabha session. I'm not sure what the link is. I saw Dharma Yong forward it to people. So if you're interested, I think you can probably find it at the ctdbusa.org website.
Okay. All right.
Other than that, at the Berkeley Monastery, we'll be finishing our kind of semester lectures pretty soon. I think next week might be Marty's last lecture for the semester. And DRB will be going on break and starting up again in spring.
Okay, great. There are 114 friends on YouTube at the moment, 70 listening from China. We don't know how many. The Vietnamese group almost always has 30 some. So how amazing that my voice is being echoed around to Australia on its way to China. Amazing. Okay, now I wanted to ask everybody, since I've been away, you know, I was in the Hong Kong airport in February of 2020. 4 weeks later, they shut the Hong Kong airport and COVID officially shut the world down. I was through there 4 weeks before it happened. Since that time, we've been doing the Medicine Buddha mantra, dedication of merit. Yao Shi Guanding Zhenyan. Om Namo Bhagavate. We stopped doing May Every Living Being because COVID was still happening. And these days, I am prompted to ask, are we ready to go back to the dedication of merit, or do we want to stick with the mantra? COVID doesn't disappearing very quickly. You're all wearing masks. We've got our big air purifiers on all sides here. What's people's preferences? Decide. Anybody have a preference? Let's see hands for may every living being, our former dedication of merit. Hands up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, Miho, is your hand up? 7? Kinda. He's lying. There you go. Can't tell. Okay. How many for Medicine Buddha mantra? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the mantra has it. All right, we'll stick with the mantra. Are you learning it? I have to say, when I was traveling through the airport in Singapore and then in Taipei, and then in the city streets, surrounded by hundreds of people in Singapore, I felt really confident, having in my mind going, Om Namo Bhagavate Vaisakya Guru. With my steps, I had something to recite that I knew was putting my vibration level in the right place, and further, ideally, shedding some goodness around me. And, knock on wood, still good. So that was nice to have that something to do. So you're not just feeling, oh, hope I don't get sick, hope I don't get sick. Or maybe you're going to make me sick. Stay away from me. That attitude of your mind becomes open to getting sick when you have that doubt and fear around you. And by reciting the mantra, you chase it. You have something proactive and positive to do. So I strongly recommend folks consider learning the mantra. And to make it work, you have to make a wish. Dedicate, 回向. I want to give my goodness away to, fill in the blank, with the wish that, fill in the blank. Om Namo Bhagavate Vaisakya Guru Vaidurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaisaji Vaisaja Samukate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vaisakya Guru Vaidurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaisaje Vaisaja Samudgate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vaisakya Guru Vaidurya Prabharajaya Tathagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tadyata Om Vaisaje Vaisaja Samudgate Swaha. May all become compassionate and wise. How do you like my desktop? That's the monk's eye view of the end of the pilgrimage. 3 steps, 1 bow. This is the mountain gate as it was then, just a framework, 1979. And the entire assembly of CTDB came out to walk around and recite the Great Compassion Mantra. That was pretty unforgettable. Okay, we've got some bowing here. Here we go. You can bow from right from where you are. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. All righty. Appreciate the help with the translation and the tech wizardry that puts this out. Look forward to seeing you all next week. I will have stories from the Midwest for you. Amitofo.